Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the introduction. Tonight, however, I speak for myself. So I'm going to be sharing some of my thoughts and ideas and beliefs with you, and I thank you for being here. Confronting U.S. empire, actually, I wrote some notes, but I didn't proofread them, so bear with me. But confronting U.S. empire today means to wage many battles within the same war against the status quo. The struggle to end the occupation of Iraq is one of many struggles being waged against the U.S. empire. But it is also in many ways the most important battle to be won. Because key within that struggle is the GI resistance movement. And GI resistance has the potential to expose just about everything that is wrong with our society. GI resistance today takes place within a military, 15% of whose members are female. And many of them are fighting two wars. The war against improvised explosive devices, the war against mortar attacks, ambushes, etc., and the war against the men in their units. A war against sexual harassment and sexual assault. So supporting GI resistance means to support and to develop the struggle against sexual assault and against the violently sexist culture of the military. Supporting GI resistance today also means supporting people like Suzanne Swift, who refused to redeploy to Iraq with the same people who had assaulted her. Supporting GI resistance today means speaking out for the female GIs who died of dehydration in Iraq because they stopped drinking water to avoid being raped on their way to the latrine. Supporting GI resistance today requires the movement to fight against the openly homophobic culture of the military. It requires us to also stand up against racism. It requires us to stand up against a government that preys on young and poor immigrants while deporting their parents. The DREAM Act. 60 to 65,000 young people graduating from high school every year without documents. The vast majority of them don't have the ability to go to college. That's the DREAM Act. We have to support the troops, says the government. We have to fight the terrorists there so we don't have to fight them here. We have to fight for freedom, democracy, and the American way, they say. So the struggle against war and occupation has also become the struggle to reclaim the words with which imperialism justifies itself. We have to make it clear to the American people that supporting the troops and supporting the war are not only different things, but also opposites of each other. Those of us in the GI resistance movement have to help our brothers and sisters understand that we cannot support a war and an occupation that disregards their lives and the well-being of their families while lining the corporate pockets of American corporations with billions of dollars. We have to help people understand that we cannot export freedom and democracy because we don't have freedom and democracy in our own country. And because freedom and democracy can only truly be achieved from within, as a result of a people's struggle and not as the result of military occupation. We have to remind people that we cannot send our military to rebuild other nations when our own levees are breaking. We cannot rebuild other countries when our own communities are burning and our own bridges are falling apart at home. The struggle against war and occupation requires us to reclaim a movement that has been hijacked by the imperialist Democratic Party and its affiliates. A movement that has been demoralized by the electoral process. And we have to rebuild that movement from the bottom up, from the grassroots, from the communities most affected by capitalism, from within the ranks of the military, from the workplace, from the fields where slavery persists to this very day. It's going to be a very short speech. The occupation of Iraq will not end only as a result of what we do here in the United States and in the US military. It will also end, and perhaps more importantly, it will also end because of the fierce Iraqi resistance. And let me just say from personal experience that the Iraqi resistance, it's a popular resistance. It's not a resistance that can survive without the help of the people. The way that they place those IEDs and they ambush our patrols and things like that, it just could not happen without the active role that the people play in that resistance. So this is a popular uprising against imperialist conquest. It's not just a few people there, killing one another. It's not people coming in from Iran. It's not people coming in from Syria as they try to make us believe, well, we were there fighting. And in spite of all its internal struggles that are taking place in Iraq, the popular resistance, the people of Iraq, are sending a clear message to the US, the UK, and the rest of the world that imperialism has its limits, that despite military power beyond the wildest imagination, some countries will simply not be conquered. It is in the best interest of humanity that they succeed. Every day, they are killed and wounded by the tens, if not by the hundreds. Every day, their children get killed by our munitions. Every day, their homes get destroyed. But every day, they also rebuild themselves from the ashes. And every day, they rebuild themselves to fight. And they fight not only for their country, but for our country as well, and for the entire world. They deserve our love, respect, and support. They're fighting not against our youth in uniform, but against US imperialism. They're fighting against torture. They're fighting against racism. They're fighting against Western domination. They're fighting against US government terrorism. The same government terrorism that wages war against the poor and the immigrants and the women and against the minorities and against everything that can be used to build a fair society within our own communities. The same terrorism that feeds on fear. The same terrorism that feeds on world hunger and on the lives of children who die of malnutrition every 3 seconds. Supporting GI resistance and building a movement from the ground up, it's only one battle in confronting US empire. But it's a battle that we cannot afford to lose. We have to wage it as if the fate of freedom and justice for all depended upon its victory, because it does. And we have to wage it because we can win this battle. And we will. Thank you.